Hi guys, I hope you had a really nice Labor Day weekend. We're about to start week 3 where we're going to continue working on the American History Mythbusters project. So first I want to point out that again the pace chart, and if you're following along, this is week 3 which runs from Wednesday the 5th through Tuesday September 11th. So if you just take your cursor over, it would just tell you should be working here, and there's actually a dark line here. So that means that you should really aim to have the Revolutionary America focus area mastered by the end of next Tuesday. And then also looking to submit checkpoint 3 as well. So if you are somebody who is not quite on pace yet, it's okay. It's still early in the year, but we definitely want to get you working so that you don't fall too far behind. So make sure that you're submitting checkpoint 1 and 2 before you submit checkpoint 3, because you're going to want to make sure that you get that feedback from checkpoint 1 and then apply it and then move on to checkpoint 2. So if you didn't do checkpoint 2 yet, make sure you're going and doing that before you do checkpoint 3. A reminder that the pace chart is found in Google Classroom on the classwork tab, and it is in I believe I called it Classroom Resources, a topic, so if you want to see that. Again, your attendance in this course is based on your ability to stay on pace and show effort. So it's okay if you're not exactly where we are every single week, but what is not okay is for you to not be applying yourself and putting forth effort to try to get back on pace. So when I go in and I do attendance and I see that you're putting forth effort and you're trying to study the Revolutionary America focus area, and you've submitted like a checkpoint or 2, and you're trying really hard, then I take that into account and you would be marked present every day. But if you're somebody who right now is about 2 weeks behind and is just in there taking a random diagnostic once or twice a week, you're likely going to be marked absent most days of the week, not just in my class, but in every class. If you're new to the class, I just want to briefly touch upon the launches again. I know some of you, this is your 3rd time hearing it, but just a reminder that launches are instructional videos that are to help you learn new concepts. But I think the most helpful thing is that they help you stay on pace with the projects and the focus areas. So if you are following along from week to week and just doing the things that we talk about in these launches, then you are going to have no problems passing this course, I promise that. You want to make sure that you're doing the launches in the week that they are assigned. So they are assigned typically on Mondays, and you have until the following Tuesday to do those. If you do not do that within that time limit, then you're not going to get credit for it. And a reminder that it is 10% of your grade, so they are important. But it's switched from last year. You cannot, on the last day of school, be going back and doing 37 instructional launches just to get that 10%. That's not happening this year. So again, the purpose of the SLP is for meaningful learning. We want you guys to be trying to stay on pace and have good habits, and trying to do everything on the last day of school is not a good habit. The American History Mythbusters project is what we're currently working on. We're about halfway done with it. The main question is, what is history? What is it made of? And, how did we get these stories, and how do we know that they're true? So what is true? What is a myth? And then how do we go about proving that? So this week, we're going to get into that a little more in checkpoint 3. So whenever you go into the project view, the checkpoints are down the side. We are on the American History Mythbuster paragraphs. So this is the one that is very, very important to help you with your final product, which is the Mythbusters multimedia piece. And basically in this checkpoint, what you're going to be doing is picking your myth that you would like to support or bust. So using evidence, are you going to support it or bust that myth? I do want to, before we go on, I want to get into that so you can see. So when you're in the American History Mythbusters project, you want to click into checkpoint 3. And then what you're going to see is, for this checkpoint, you will write 2 paragraphs based on the sources you read for your selected myth. Select at least 2 of the sources to be the focus for these paragraphs. So making sure you're using 2 separate sources, not just one document. The first paragraph should be about one of your sources. So for the first paragraph, you want to say what source you had and analyze the point of view or the purpose. So who's writing it and why? For source 1 is paragraph 1. Second paragraph should be about at least 2 different sources. So in this one, you're going to analyze the historical context of each source and how the source helps answer the historical question. So you're going to explain whether the sources support each other or conflict with each other in relation to the historical question. So whenever you're thinking of context, you want to think of basically what background information do I need to know, what was going on at the time, who are these people. So those are things that help bring things into context. Where you're getting your information is right over here. So the American Mythbusters document set. And when you click in on this, it's going to look like this. So you have 5 options for this. The first one is going to be, did Pocahontas, did John Smith really save, or excuse me, did Pocahontas really save John Smith's life? The second one is, did Thomas Jefferson believe in equality and natural, equality and human rights for all? The Battle of Lexington, it's who really fired the shots heard around the world. For Paul Revere, it would be, did Paul Revere really, go through on a horse, say the British are coming, the British are coming? And then the American flag would be, did Betsy Ross really create the first American flag? So say you want to work on the Betsy Ross one. That's just going to take you down to these sources. So you're going to be using source A, which is just a YouTube video. Source B, here's another. So there's source A and source B. And then those are the only 2 sources for that one. So you want to make sure you're using both of those. And then your historical question. So back in the checkpoint, when it is referring to the historical question, you are actually, so when it talks about the historical question, what that one would be is, did Betsy Ross create the first American flag? So whatever the myth is your historical question that you're trying to prove. So I think another thing that would help you guys is this graphic organizer. Graphic organizers are always a really nice way to look through a document and kind of know what questions to ask. So as you're reading through those documents, I just recommend filling out this graphic organizer as you go, and it's going to make writing your paragraph a lot easier. And then another resource is the American Revolution timeline. This would be helpful for trying to understand the context of situations. So if it lists a year that something was written, it might be helpful to go down through here and see kind of where that falls into this timeline, so you can get a little bit of context and have an idea of what was going on in history at that time. Okay, any questions on that? You might want to send me a hangout to get some more detail, because it is getting into like the bulk of the project in this one. Okay, so in addition to the project, you also want to be looking into the Revolutionary America focus area. Remember that you're only taking the diagnostic one time. Diagnostic is a fancy word for a pretest. You're going to use the data from the pretest to see what you need to study and kind of help create your plan for studying. So say you got 0 out of 3 correct on objective 1 when you took the diagnostic. That would suggest, hey, I really need to study objective 1. I'm definitely not going to pass the content assessment because I'm not sure anything about objective 1. So you would click into objective 1 and then read those resources or look at the videos within the playlist. And then when you feel comfortable, you feel like you can do all of these things that are listed up here, then you're going to request the content assessment. And a reminder that the content assessment, just because you request it, it does not automatically get unlocked. I recommend sending your instructor a message or sending your learning guide a message and just saying, hey, when you have a minute, can you unlock my content assessment? And you will have more success doing that between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. because that's our actual workday. So if you have not passed the Revolutionary America focus area yet, I wanted to try to help you guys at least pass a question or two and explain some concepts. So what you're going to be seeing in this focus area is a little thing called the Great Awakening. And so the Great Awakening kind of had its roots in Europe, but it made its way across the Atlantic and into the colonies in America. And what it was a religious movement in the colonies that encouraged a personal and emotional connection to their faith. So it was there was less of an emphasis on traditional teachings and less emphasis on the actual clergy and the priest, and more of an emphasis on your relationship to your faith and to your God. It brought about new churches, new religions. There were religious revivals, new schools and colleges were developed, and also just a presentation of new ideas. Another thing happening at the time was also called the Enlightenment. Also having its origins in Europe. It came across the Atlantic and started to trickle into the everyday lives of the American colonists. And this is where basically people started to question traditional ideas. They started to question the government. They started to question their rulers to see, like, did they really have their best interests in mind? And were they really concerned about the average person and their natural rights? It focused on concepts like democracy, freedom, and scientific reasoning. And it also led to a worldwide revolution, including the American Revolution. Also a reminder, when you're in the SLP, whenever you're in that project, you also want to start looking into that plans page, because I have been adding in here every week what goals you should have for this particular week. So it's the same stuff that I'm emphasizing in the launches, but it's kind of written down for you in one place, so you can kind of see each week if you're following the plan. So to do for Tuesday, September 11th, you should be trying to master the Revolutionary America Content Assessment. You should submit checkpoints 1, 2, and 3 of the project for feedback if you have not done so already. And then most importantly, it's not just about submitting the checkpoint. You want to then review the feedback that I give you, because I do take some time. I try to send you some helpful advice for what you could do to make it better. So review the feedback, make those changes, and then resubmit it so that you're having your best chance to turn in your best quality work at the end.